Mardi Gras in New Orleans, a story of truth and stars. Under the blazing neon lights of the French Quarter, New Orleans explodes with the wild energy of Mardi Gras. Trumpets blare like they're tearing the sky apart, blending with the pounding drums and the laughter echoing from the crowd. Glittering masks, purple, gold, and green feathered capes swirl through the air, and the sweet scent of powdered sugar beignets floats in the humid night. In the middle of this chaotic celebration, Lila Carter, a 23-year-old with curly hair tied high and paint-splattered hands, sits on a folding chair along Bourbon Street. In front of her is a small easel where she sketches tourists' portraits with brushstrokes as quick as the jazz pulsing around her. Lila's brown eyes sparkle, but behind her friendly smile is a void she's carried for 23 years, the question of the father she's never known. Lila dips her brush into a jar of red paint, finishing a portrait for a kid in a feathered mask, when a group strolls by, their leather shoes clicking on the stone sidewalk. She glances up, just for a second, but her gaze freezes. A tall, middle-aged man in a sharp gray suit, out of place in the festive chaos, rolls up his sleeve to wipe sweat from his brow. The light from a nearby bar catches his left wrist, revealing a small star-shaped mark, no bigger than a quarter, but sharp, like it's etched into his skin. Lila's heart pounds, as if the whole world just stopped spinning. The trumpets, the laughter, the footsteps, they all fade into a strange silence. She jumps up, her brush clattering to the ground, leaving a streak of red paint on the sidewalk. "Sir!" Lila's voice cuts through the crowd, shaky but determined. The man, Henry Langston, a real estate tycoon whose name is tied to New Orleans skyscrapers, turns around. His deep blue eyes narrow, not in annoyance, but in surprise. Lila steps forward, her flat sandals moving fast over the street, her hands clenched to hold on to her courage. "That mark." She points at his wrist, her voice catching. "My mom said my dad had a star mark right there on his left wrist, exactly like that." The crowd keeps dancing, but at this corner, time seems to stand still. Henry freezes, his hand instinctively covering the mark, but his eyes don't leave Lila. Something in her voice, a mix of hope and pain, makes it impossible for him to turn away. "You're mistaken," he says, his voice low and cool, but his fingers tremble slightly as they touch his wrist. Lila shakes her head, her curls bouncing free from their tie. "No, I'm not. My mom, Sophie Davis, told me about that star since I was a kid. She said if I ever met a man with that mark, he was my dad." The name Sophie hits Henry like a punch to the chest. His face pales, and for a moment, he's not the powerful businessman with a dozen buildings in his name. He's the guy from 24 years ago, standing under the stage lights of a jazz club, watching Sophie dance, her feet gliding like a bird's wings, her smile brighter than any neon sign. But he's also the guy who walked away when his family threatened to cut him off if he married a poor dancer. Henry blinks, trying to pull himself back to the present. But Lila's eyes, brown, just like Sophie's, hold him there, like a verdict from the past. "You knew my mom, didn't you?" Lila asks, her voice no longer trembling but sharp, like a blade. The crowd starts to notice, a few people pausing, phones raised to record. Henry glances around, feeling like all of New Orleans is watching him. He takes a deep breath, his voice dropping low. "You don't know what you're talking about, kid." But Lila doesn't back down. She steps closer, just an arm's length away, and says, slow and steady, "I don't want your money. I don't want your name. I just want the truth." "Are you my dad?" The question hangs between them, heavy as the air before a Louisiana storm. Henry opens his mouth, but no words come out. His eyes, usually ice-cold in million-dollar deals, waver, as if he's seeing a ghost from his past. Lila stands there, breathing hard, waiting, but terrified of the answer. And then, as if fate wants to stretch this moment, a firework explodes in the Mardi Gras sky, golden light raining down, making the star mark on Henry's wrist glow like a reminder. The truth can't hide forever. Fireworks still burst over New Orleans, gold and purple light showering the French Quarter, but Henry Langston doesn't hear the booms or the jazz trumpets anymore. Lila Carter's voice, sharp and trembling, "Are you my dad?" loops in his head like a jazz riff gone off-key. Impossible to shake. The Mardi Gras crowd keeps dancing around him, masks glittering, laughter mixing with the clink of glasses. But Henry stands frozen, as if the world has shrunk to the star-shaped mark on his left wrist. He He pulls his sleeve down, covering it, but the gesture only makes his heart race faster. Lila, the young woman with Sophie Davis's piercing brown eyes, still stands in front of him, her breath uneven, waiting for an answer he can't give. "You're mistaken," Henry says again, his voice low and clipped, the way he shuts down arguments in boardrooms. But this time, it lacks conviction. His fingers brush the star mark, a small tattoo he hadn't thought about in years, until now. Lila shakes her head, her curls flying, her gaze unflinching. "I'm not mistaken, Mr. Langston. I know who my mom was, and I know what she said about that mark." His name, coming from her lips, stings like a needle in his chest. He glances around, noticing a few people in the crowd have stopped, phones up, eyes curious. The weight of public scrutiny, something he's always controlled, suddenly feels suffocating. Henry turns, weaving quickly through the crowd, his polished shoes clicking on Bourbon Street's stone sidewalk. "I don't have time for this," he mutters, loud enough for Lila to hear, but not enough to hide the waver in his voice. Lila doesn't chase him, but her eyes, steady and wounded, follow him like a shadow. He pushes through the throng, slipping into a narrow alley near a bar, where the neon lights dim and the jazz fades to a distant hum. Leaning against a brick wall, he breathes heavily, raising his left hand, his thumb rubbing the star mark as if he could erase it. But memories, unlike tattoos, don't fade. In his mind, New Orleans from 24 years ago comes into sharp focus. A small jazz club in Marigny, warm yellow lights, and Sophie Davis on stage, her feet gliding through a swing dance, her red dress spinning like fire. Her smile, brighter than the stage lights, once made his heart skip, even though he was just a rookie trying to prove himself to his family. They met after the show, under the moonlight by the Mississippi River, and Sophie pointed at the star mark on his wrist, giggling. "That means you're special, Henry. Don't let anyone make you forget it." But he forgot. Or worse, he chose to. His family, with their skyscrapers and iron expectations, called Sophie trouble. They threatened to cut him out of the inheritance if he didn't end it. And Henry, young and scared, let Sophie walk away without a fight. She vanished from New Orleans, and he convinced himself it was for the best. Now, in the dark alley, Henry feels the past crash over him like a tidal wave. Lila, the girl with Sophie's eyes, isn't just a stranger. She's proof of what he left behind. "She can't be," he mutters, but the thought trails off as another memory surfaces. The last time he saw Sophie, she tried to tell him something, but he cut her off, too busy with a meeting. He never knew she was pregnant. He never asked. But Lila's eyes, her voice, the fierce way she said, "I just want the truth." They've cracked the wall he built over 2 decades. He pulls out his phone, his fingers swiping to his assistant's number. "Find out about someone," he says when the call connects. Sophie Davis, dancer, New Orleans, about 24 years ago. And a girl named Lila Carter. Henry pockets the phone, his gaze drifting to the alley's end, where Mardi Gras lights still flicker. The festival rages on, but for him, it's no longer a celebration. Sophie's name, buried under bourbon shots and million-dollar deals, is alive again, sharp and painful, and Lila, the girl he left behind in the crowd, might be his daughter. The thought tightens his chest, not from fear of exposure, but from something deeper, something he's not ready to name: regret. He steps out of the alley, the festival lights hitting his face, but this time, he doesn't run. It's not quite courage, but a gut feeling that, whether he likes it or not, the truth has found him and it won't let go. Lila Carter weaves through the cobblestone streets of the French Quarter, the trumpets and drums of Mardi Gras fading behind her. Neon purple and gold lights flicker from the bars, but they can't warm the chill creeping into her heart. Her flat sandals tap the sidewalk, each step pulling her further from the moment that just shattered her world. The moment she faced Henry Langston, pointed at the star mark on his wrist, and asked, "Are you my dad?" His response, "You're mistaken," rings in her head, cold as a Louisiana winter night. But his eyes, wavering and dodging, told a different story, one that makes her pulse race faster than the fireworks bursting overhead. She pushes open the door to her tiny apartment on Chartres Street, a cramped space smelling of oil paint and stale coffee. The glow from an old desk lamp spills over Lila's half-finished paintings, stacked on a wooden rack. She drops her canvas bag on the floor, her hands still trembling, and sinks into a worn armchair, the same one where her mom, Sophie Davis, used to sing her lullabies when she was little. Lila closes her eyes, trying to block out Henry's image, the man in the pricey suit with secrets in his eyes. But instead, memories of her mom flood in, vivid as a freshly painted canvas. She stands, crossing to a small table in the corner where an old photo sits in a chipped wooden frame. In it, Sophie, young and radiant in a red dancer's dress, cradles baby Lila, just a few months old. Sophie's smile shines like stage lights, but her eyes hold a sadness Lila only understood as she grew older. Lila touches the photo, her fingers tracing her mom's face. "You said my dad had a star mark," she whispers, her voice catching. "You said I'd know him if I saw him." But Sophie never shared more. Stories about Lila's dad always stopped there, like a jazz tune cut off mid-note. Lila sits on the floor, leaning against the wall, and pulls a small wooden box from under the table. Inside are Sophie's keepsakes, a silver necklace, a ticket stub from a 2000 jazz show, and a folded piece of paper, yellowed with age. Lila unfolds it, her mom's handwriting clear despite the years. "Lila, if you find the man with the star on his wrist, ask him why he left, but don't let his answer define you. You're my light, with or without him." Lila reads it again, tears streaming down her cheeks. She remembers the nights when Sophie, weakened by illness, still spoke of New Orleans, of dance, and of a man who once made her heart skip but didn't have the guts to stay. She steps onto her small balcony, overlooking a dark alley. The music from the French Quarter drifts up, but it only makes her feel lonelier. Lila thinks of Henry, the way he hid the mark, his cold voice but unsteady eyes. "He knew, Mom," she mutters, gripping the railing. "He knew, and he walked away." Anger surges, but it's laced with fear. Fear that the truth will hurt more than the silence she's lived with for 23 years. A knock at the door snaps her out of her thoughts. Clara Bell, her 70-year-old neighbor with silver hair and a warm smile, steps in, holding a plate of fresh pralines. "You look like you've seen a ghost, Lila," Clara says, setting the plate on the table. Lila forces a weak smile, sitting beside her. "I met him, Miss Clara." "The man with the star mark. Henry Langston. He looked at me like I was a ghost." Clara tilts her head, her eyes sharp but kind. "Sometimes men shake not 'cause they don't know, but 'cause they know too much. What do you want from him, Lila?" Lila shakes her head, tears falling again. "I don't know. I just want to understand why Mom was alone, why I grew up without him." Clara rests a hand on her shoulder. "The truth doesn't always heal, but it'll give you strength." "Don't let him decide who you are." Lila nods, but inside, a spark ignites. She doesn't just want the truth. She wants Henry to face it, like she's doing now. She looks out the window, the Mardi Gras lights twinkling in the distance, and whispers, "I'll find out, Mom. I promise." Henry Langston sits alone in his penthouse office on the 42nd floor of Langston Tower, where floor-to-ceiling windows frame New Orleans' glittering skyline. The noise of Mardi Gras is a faint hum, drowned out by the heavy silence in the room. The glow from his laptop casts shadows on his face, deepening the lines etched by time. His hands, steady through million-dollar deals, hesitate over the keyboard. The name Sophie Davis sits in the search bar, the cursor blinking like a dare. After the confrontation with Lila Carter on Bourbon Street, after her piercing question, "Are you my dad?" Henry can't pretend the past is dead. It's alive, breathing, and staring him down through the eyes of a 23-year-old. He hits enter, and the screen lights up with scattered results. An old article from 2000, dancer Sophie Davis performs at Langston Hotel opening, with a blurry photo. Sophie, in a fiery red dress, stands on stage, her smile as bright as the spotlights. Henry's chest tightens. He remembers that night, the way she spun through a jazz routine, the way she grinned at him from the wings, like they were the only two people in the world. But he also remembers the weeks after, when his family found out about their relationship. "She doesn't belong in our world," his father had said, voice like steel. Henry, young and scared, chose the safety of his family's legacy over his heart. Sophie left, and he didn't look for her. Didn't dare. He scrolls down, and an obituary hits like a gut punch. Sophie Davis, renowned New Orleans dancer, dies of leukemia in 2015, survived by daughter. Lila Carter. No father listed. Henry closes his eyes, his breathing heavy. The image of Sophie in a hospital, alone, with little Lila by her side, burns in his mind, sharp and painful. He opens his eyes, staring at the article. A photo shows Sophie, frail but still radiant, hugging Lila, then just 10, in a park. Lila's brown eyes, identical to her mom's, stare at him through the screen, as if asking again, "Why weren't you there?" Henry stands, pacing to the window, his hand brushing the star mark on his left wrist. That mark, what Sophie once called your destiny star, now feels like a curse. He's built an empire, slapped his name on skyscrapers, but no contract, no award can fill the emptiness choking him. Lila isn't a stranger. She's Sophie's daughter, and maybe, probably, his. The thought makes him want to run back to that Bourbon Street alley, face Lila, and spill the truth. But what's the truth? That he loved Sophie, but didn't have the spine to keep her? That he left her alone, not knowing she was pregnant because he was too weak to ask? He grabs his phone, calling his assistant, his voice low but firm. "I need everything on Lila Carter, where she lives, what she does, all of it. And any records on Sophie Davis. Do it fast." He hangs up, his hand still gripping the phone, like it's the only thing keeping him from falling apart. He opens his desk drawer, pulling out an old wooden box he hasn't touched in years. Inside, a faded jazz show ticket and a small note in Sophie's handwriting. "Henry, if you read this, remember I thought you were a good man. Don't prove me wrong." He sets the note down, his eyes stinging. Sophie believed in him, but he betrayed that belief. The French Quarter lights flicker outside, but in this room, Henry feels like he's staring into an abyss. Lila Carter, with Sophie's eyes and a courage he never had, has dragged him back to the past. He can't run anymore. Not because he wants redemption, but because, for the first time in 24 years, he feels a spark of hope. Hope that he can be the man Sophie once thought he could be. He looks out the window, whispering into the dark. "Sophie, you were right. She's your light. And maybe mine too." Morning sunlight filters through the sprawling oaks, spilling onto New Orleans' cobblestone streets, where the scent of chicory coffee mingles with Mardi Gras' lingering vibe. Lila Carter steps out of her small apartment on Chartres Street, her brown eyes sharp with determination and exhaustion. She barely slept, her mind haunted by the confrontation with Henry Langston and memories of her mom, Sophie Davis. Her mom's words, "If you find the man with the star on his wrist, ask him why he left," echo like a jazz riff she can't shake. Lila isn't sure if she's chasing answers or justice, but she knows she can't stop. She slings her canvas bag over her shoulder, stuffed with her sketchbook and her mom's note, and heads for the New Orleans Public Library, hoping to dig up clues about Sophie and Henry's past. The library, on Loyola Avenue, is an old building with dark wooden shelves and the musty smell of aged paper. Lila settles in a quiet corner, the glow of an ancient computer casting light on her face. She types, "Sophie Davis Dancer New Orleans" into the search bar, her fingers trembling slightly. Results pop up. A few small articles, some grainy photos from jazz performances, but one piece from 2000 stops her cold. "Sophie Davis performs at Langston Hotel opening," the headline reads. Lila clicks, her heart racing. The photo shows Sophie, radiant in a red dress, dancing on stage, and in the corner, a younger Henry Langston, in a suit, clapping. The caption notes, "Businessman Henry Langston sponsors event, partnering with local artists." Lila whispers, "He didn't just know Mom. He was part of her world." She scrolls further, hunting for more. Another brief article mentions Sophie leaving New Orleans soon after the event, no reason given. Lila frowns, anger bubbling up. "Why'd you leave, Mom? What did he do?" She jots down dates, then searches Henry Langston, New Orleans, 2000. Articles flood in. The son of a powerful real estate family, expected to inherit the Langston empire. No mention of Sophie, like she was erased from his story. Lila grips the mouse, feeling like her mom was wiped out, not just by Henry, but by this whole city. She leaves the computer, heading to the archive desk, where an older librarian points her to a collection of old print newspapers. Lila flips through faded copies of the Times-Picayune, her fingers racing until she finds a poster for the Langston Hotel opening. Sophie's in the corner, her name in small print. Performance by dancer Sophie Davis. Lila zooms in on the image with her phone, her heart pounding. Henry stands center stage, his smile confident, but his eyes are on Sophie, not the crowd. He loved her, Lila mutters, but the realization only hurts more. If he loved her, why did he let her go? Why didn't he ever look for me? She leaves the library, stepping onto St. Charles Avenue, where streetcars rattle by with a clang. Lila stops at Clarabelle's coffee shop, her neighbor, who's become like family. Clara, her silver hair tied back and a gentle smile on her face, is wiping down the counter. Lila sits, sliding the poster across the table. Miss Clara, I found this. Henry Langston wasn't just some guy. He knew Mom, and he mattered to her. Clara studies the poster, her eyes softening. Sophie used to talk about a man with a star on his wrist. Said he had a good heart, but was trapped in his family's cage. What do you think, Lila? Lila grips her coffee mug, her voice shaking. I think he chose that cage over Mom, and I think he knew about me, but never looked. Clara rests a hand on hers. Maybe he didn't know, or maybe he was too scared to face it. But you, Lila, you're not your mom. You've got the right to demand the truth. Lila nods, her eyes flashing. She doesn't just want to know why Henry left Sophie. She wants him to own up to her mom, to her, not as a secret, but as part of the story he tried to bury. Under New Orleans' sun, Lila feels a fire ignite, a fire to repaint her own history. Late afternoon sun streams through the massive windows of Langston Tower, New Orleans' skyline-dominating skyscraper, casting golden streaks across the marble floor. Lila Carter stands in the grand lobby, her flat sandals and worn canvas jacket clashing with the opulence around her. She clutches her bag, holding the old poster from the 2000 Langston Hotel opening, proof that Henry Langston didn't just know her mom, Sophie Davis, but was a key part of her life. After hours scouring the library, after sleepless nights haunted by her mom's memory, Lila can't wait any longer. She called Henry's office, demanding a meeting, and to her shock, he agreed. But as she steps into the elevator, her heart pounds, not from fear, but from the fire burning in her chest. The elevator opens on the 42nd floor, leading to a hallway lined with pricey abstract art and the scent of polished wood. An assistant in a crisp black suit guides Lila to Henry Langston's office. He's seated behind a massive desk, the sunlight highlighting the lines on his face and the tired depth in his blue eyes. Henry stands, motioning for the assistant to leave, and closes the door. The room feels stifling, the only sound the ticking of a wall clock and their breathing. Miss Carter, Henry says, his voice low and cautious. You said you needed to see me. What's this about? Lila steps forward, slapping the poster on the desk, her finger jabbing at Sophie's image in her red dress, dancing on stage. It's about my mom, Sophie Davis, she says, her voice sharp as a jazz crescendo. And you didn't just know her. You were there, at your hotel opening, watching her dance. You loved her, didn't you? So why'd you ditch her? Each question slices through the silence Henry's built for 24 years. He stares at the poster, his hand freezing on the desk, but his eyes don't leave Sophie's face. Lila presses on, her voice trembling with anger and pain. My mom raised me alone, fought cancer, and never bad-mouthed you, but I want the truth. Why weren't you there? Did you know about me? Henry takes a deep breath, sinking into his chair, his hand brushing the star mark on his left wrist, as if it's burning. Lila, he says, his voice barely above a whisper. I love Sophie. She was a light I've never seen in anyone else. But my family, they wouldn't accept her. They threatened to cut me off. Money, name, future. I was young, scared, and I made the wrong choice. I let her go. He pauses, his eyes red. I didn't know she was pregnant. I swear, if I'd known... Don't give me if, Lila snaps, stepping closer to the desk, her brown eyes blazing. Mom didn't get if. She lived, she fought, and she died without you. I don't need your apologies. I need you to own up to her. Own up that she mattered, that I'm not a mistake. Her voice breaks, tears streaming down her face, but she doesn't look away. Henry meets her gaze, no longer dodging. You're not a mistake, he says, his voice choking. You're Sophie's daughter. And maybe mine. The admission hangs between them, heavy as the air before a Louisiana storm. Lila steps back, her breath ragged, a mix of anger, relief, and a nameless ache swirling inside her. Henry stands, moving toward her, but she raises a hand to stop him. "I'm not ready to forgive," she says, her voice steady. "But I won't let Mom be forgotten, and I won't let you hide anymore." She turns, striding out of the office, leaving the poster on the desk, a reminder that the truth is out and no one can bury it again. The sun dips below New Orleans, painting the French Quarter's sky a fiery orange, as if the city's burning with Lila Carter's emotions. She sits on her small balcony on Chartres Street, the glow of jazz bar lights flickering in the distance, a saxophone's wail drifting through the alley. In her hand is her phone, the screen lit with TikTok, where she just recorded a video she knows will change everything. The confrontation with Henry Langston in his office still burns in her mind. His admission that she might be his daughter, his regret-filled eyes not enough to erase 23 years of silence. Lila isn't done. She wants the world to know her mom, Sophie Davis, wasn't a forgotten shadow, and she, Lila, isn't a secret. She hits record, the desk lamp's light catching her face, highlighting her sharp brown eyes and the tears still drying on her cheeks. "Hey, New Orleans," she starts, her voice shaky but strong, like a slow jazz intro. "I'm Lila Carter, a street artist, a girl raised by my mom, Sophie Davis, a dancer who made this city hum. But this isn't just my story. It's about a man with a star mark on his wrist who loved my mom, then left her." Lila raises her hand, tracing an invisible star in the air, her fingers trembling with emotion. "I found him, Henry Langston, the guy behind the skyscrapers. I asked him why he bailed, why my mom raised me alone, and he said he didn't know about me, but I don't want apologies. I want my mom remembered. I want the truth." She pauses, pulling a sketch from her notebook, a drawing of Sophie in her red dress, dancing under stage lights, with a faint star on an unnamed figure's wrist. "This is my mom," Lila says, her voice catching. "She taught me to paint, to stand tall, to know I'm worth something, even if my dad never showed up. If you're watching, Mr. Langston, I don't want your money. I want you to own up to my mom, to say she was the light, not the darkness you buried." She stares into the camera, her eyes fierce. "And if you're watching New Orleans, tell me, have you ever chased a hidden truth? Drop a star in the comments." Lila posts the video, her heart pounding like Mardi Gras drums. She doesn't expect it to blow up so fast. Within hours, #StarOnTheWrist trends on TikTok, with hundreds of comments from strangers, people who lost parents, street artists, New Orleanians who recognize Henry Langston's name. "I saw Sophie dance in 2000. She was amazing," one writes. "Lila, you're not alone," another adds, with a star emoji. The video spreads across local community groups, from art forums to French Quarter history pages. Some even film Langston Tower, questioning the man behind the empire. Lila sits on her balcony, her phone buzzing with notifications. She doesn't cry, but a weight lifts from her chest. She's done what her mom never did, spoken out, not from anger, but from love. Clara Bell, her silver-haired neighbor with a warm smile, steps onto the balcony with a mug of coffee. "You've stirred up the whole city, Lila," Clara says, her eyes twinkling. Lila gives a faint smile. "I just wanted Mom to be seen, Miss Clara. And I want him to know his silence won't win." Clara rests a hand on her shoulder. "He'll have to face you, and all of New Orleans. But you're the brightest star tonight." Under the moonlight, Lila gazes at the French Quarter, where the saxophone still wails. Her video isn't just a post, it's a rallying cry, a fire that's lit a truth Henry Langston can't extinguish. She doesn't know what he'll do next, but she knows one thing. She's brought her mom back to life, not just in memory, but in the heart of the city. The New Orleans night sky blazes with French Quarter lights, but in the penthouse office on Langston Tower's 42nd floor, Henry Langston sits alone, surrounded by darkness and memories he tried to bury. His laptop screen flickers, flooded with notifications from social media, all tied to Lila Carter's TikTok video. #StarOnTheWrist is sweeping New Orleans with comments from strangers, praising Sophie Davis, slamming his silence, demanding the truth. Lila's words, "I want my mom remembered," cut into his heart like a blade. Henry closes the laptop, but her voice, sharp and honest, echoes in his head, impossible to silence. He stands, crossing to a wooden cabinet in the corner where he keeps things he's never faced. With a trembling hand, he pulls out a dusty wooden box. Inside is a letter, its paper yellowed, Sophie Davis's handwriting as clear as the day she wrote it, 24 years ago. Henry sits, the desk lamp casting light on his face, deepening the lines carved by time and regret. He unfolds the letter, though he read it once after finding it in old files, but now each word burns. Henry, Sophie wrote, if you're reading this, no, I don't hate you. But our daughter Lila deserves a father who fights for her. Don't let her grow up in silence like I did. Henry pauses, his finger tracing the star mark on his left wrist, feeling like it's searing his skin. The letter falls to the desk, and Henry closes his eyes, Sophie's memory hitting like a storm. He recalls nights by the Mississippi River, when Sophie shared her dream of becoming a famous dancer, her eyes sparkling like the moonlight. He recalls their last meeting, when she tried to say something, but he brushed her off, too caught up in family ambitions. He let her go, not knowing she was pregnant with Lila, not knowing she'd face illness alone. Now Lila, with Sophie's eyes and a courage he never had, is demanding the truth, not just for herself, but for her mom. Henry opens his eyes, staring out the window, where Mardi Gras lights still flicker. He can't hide anymore. He grabs his phone, calling his lawyer, Paul Atkins, who's worked with him for 2 decades. Paul, Henry says, his voice steady but heavy with emotion. I need to update my will. Add Lila Carter as my daughter. No arguments, no conditions. I want her recognized, whether she accepts me or not. Paul pauses, then asks, You sure, Henry? This is big. Henry glances at Sophie's letter on the desk and replies, I've never been surer. He hangs up, a weight lifting from his chest, but another, responsibility, taking its place. Henry stands, stepping to the window, gazing at the city he's shaped. The buildings with his name, the streets he's paved, all feel meaningless compared to Lila's eyes, to Sophie's smile in his memory. He knows Lila's TikTok isn't just a personal call-out. It's a public challenge, and New Orleans is waiting for his response. He picks up Sophie's letter, folding it carefully and slipping it into his pocket. I'll do right, Sophie, he whispers, his voice catching. I'll fight for her, like I didn't for you. Under the moonlight, Henry feels a spark in his heart. Not forgiveness, but a chance to be the man he's dodged for too long. He doesn't know how Lila will react, but he knows one thing. He won't let silence win again. Mardi Gras in New Orleans hits its peak, the French Quarter erupting in color and sound. Purple, gold, and green lanterns hang high on Bourbon Street, lighting up a crowd in glittering masks, dancing to trumpets and pounding drums. On the main stage in Jackson Square, a jazz band sets the night on fire, but no one expects the moment about to steal the city's breath. Henry Langston, the man who's dodged spotlights to build his real estate empire in the shadows, stands backstage, clutching a small note, Sophie Davis's letter, the woman he loved and left 24 years ago. Lila Carter's TikTok video, with her StarOnTheWrist spreading like wildfire, has pushed him into the light, and this time, he's not running. Henry takes a deep breath, his eyes scanning the crowd, thousands laughing, singing, holding up phones to record. Somewhere out there, he knows Lila might be watching via live stream, like countless others following her story. He's read Sophie's letter dozens of times, her final words, don't let her grow up in silence, like a curse forcing him to act. He's updated his will, recognizing Lila as his daughter, but that's not enough. Sophie deserves to be remembered, and Lila deserves to be seen. Henry steps onto the stage, raising a hand to silence the band. The music stops, the crowd buzzing, the spotlight hitting him, catching the star mark on his left wrist as he rolls up his sleeve. Tonight, Henry begins, his voice deep and carrying through the speakers, I'm not here to party. I'm here to tell a truth I've buried too long. The crowd quiets, phones rising higher, eyes locked on him. In 2000, I fell in love with a woman named Sophie Davis, a dancer who lit up New Orleans with every step she took. She was light, joy, everything I didn't dare to be. But I let her go because I was a coward, afraid of losing my name, my money, my family's approval. His voice catches, but he pushes on. I didn't know Sophie was pregnant. I didn't know she raised our daughter, Lila Carter, alone and fought illness until her last day. The name Lila sparks a roar from the crowd, a few shouting, "Hatch Star on the Wrist!" Henry raises a hand, asking for quiet. Lila found me, not for money or fame, but for the truth. She stood in front of me, with Sophie's eyes, and asked why I wasn't there. I've got no excuses. I failed Sophie, and I failed Lila. But tonight, I want to tell New Orleans and Lila that I'm sorry. Sophie, you were the light I didn't deserve. Lila, you're your mother's legacy, and you deserve to know you were never forgotten. He lifts his wrist, letting the star mark catch the light, and says, I was a coward, but I'm done being silent. The crowd erupts, cheers mixing with applause, but Henry doesn't smile. He steps off the stage, his eyes searching the distance, as if looking for Lila in the sea of faces. A few blocks away, Lila sits in Clara Belle's coffee shop, watching the live stream on her phone, her hands shaking, tears streaming down her face. Clara, beside her, rests a hand on her shoulder. He did it, Lila, she whispers. Lila says nothing, staring at the screen, where Henry stands under the lights, not as a tycoon but as a man facing his past. The saxophone kicks up again, but for Lila, this moment isn't a festival. It's the start of a truth she and her mom have waited too long for. A cool afternoon breeze, rare in Louisiana's sticky heat, sweeps through New Orleans as Lila Carter and Henry Langston walk the gravel paths of St. Louis Cemetery. Ancient tombs, moss-covered and etched with faded names, stand silent under sprawling oaks, like witnesses to time. A distant saxophone from the French Quarter blends with rustling leaves, a soft soundtrack for a moment both Lila and Henry know will change them forever. Just days after Henry's public apology on the Mardi Gras stage, Lila agreed to meet him, not to forgive just yet, but to honor the woman who binds them, Sophie Davis, Lila's mom, and the love Henry lost. Lila leads, her flat sandals light on the gravel, clutching a bouquet of white daisies, Sophie's favorite. Henry follows, holding a small velvet box, his eyes thoughtful but steady, St. Louis Cemetery, with its tombs adorned with beads and candles, holds a strange beauty, both somber and alive, like New Orleans itself. Lila stops at a simple headstone, engraved, Sophie Davis, Dancer of Light, 1975-2015. She kneels, placing the daisies at the base, her fingers tracing her mom's name, as if feeling her presence. Mom loved this place, Lila says, her voice soft but heavy with emotion. She said cemeteries aren't just endings, they're where stories live on. Henry stands still, a few steps back, as if afraid his presence might disrupt this sacred moment. But Lila turns, motioning him forward. He kneels beside her, his eyes fixed on the headstone, Sophie's name a reminder of all he missed. I never thought I'd be here, Henry says, his voice low and thick. I let her go, Lila, and I let you both go. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to do right. He opens the velvet box, revealing a small silver locket, delicate and ornate, with an engraving of Sophie dancing, a tiny star in the corner. Sophie gave me this after her last show. I don't deserve to keep it, but I think it belongs with you. Lila takes the locket, her fingers trembling as she touches her mom's image. She opens it, finding a small note inside, in Sophie's handwriting. Dance, even if it's alone. Tears stream down Lila's face, but she smiles, a sad but warm smile. Mom always left notes like this, she says, her voice breaking, like she knew I'd need them when she was gone. She fastens the locket around her neck, feeling her mom right there with her. Henry watches, his eyes red. You're more like her than you know, Lila. Not just the eyes, but the courage. I didn't have it, but you do. Lila stands, meeting Henry's gaze, not with anger, but with honesty. I don't know if I can call you Dad, she says, her voice slow, but I know Mom would want you here, not to apologize, but to remember her, and I want that too. Henry nods, a tear rolling down his cheek, the first he doesn't hide. I'll be here, Lila, as long as you'll have me, he says, his voice firm. They stand in silence by Sophie's grave, sunlight filtering through the trees, casting dancing specks on the stone, as if Sophie's performing one last routine. As they leave the cemetery, Lila feels a weight lift from her heart, Not because everything's fixed, but because she and Henry have started a new journey, one step at a time, under Sophie's watchful gaze from afar. Bourbon Street's night glows with neon and jazz, as if New Orleans never sleeps. Just weeks after visiting Sophie Davis's grave with Henry Langston, Lila Carter stands amid a buzzing crowd, hosting her first street art exhibition, a community event called The Light of Stories. The French Quarter's old brick walls become giant canvases, projectors splashing Lila's paintings across them, each brushstroke telling a tale of love, loss, and healing. The crowd, local artists, Mardi Gras tourists, and more, is captivated by the light and color of Lila's work. But for her, this isn't just art. It's how she redefines family, not by blood, but by those who choose to stay. Lila stands on a makeshift stage, in her worn canvas jacket, her mom's silver locket gleaming under the lights. She grips the mic, her brown eyes scanning the crowd, her heart racing, but her smile soft. Tonight, she begins, her voice rising like a slow jazz tune, we're here to honor the people who shaped us, whether they stayed or not. My mom, Sophie Davis, taught me to paint, not just with brushes, but with my heart. And I want to share her story, my story, and the story of someone I'm learning to know. The projector flares, showing Lila's biggest painting, 3 faces. Sophie, radiant in her red dress, Lila, with her curls and steady smile, and Henry, his eyes thoughtful. On each wrist, a star mark, not a scar, but a light tying them together. The crowd goes quiet, then erupts in applause, blending with a nearby bar's saxophone. Lila continues, her voice trembling but true. Family isn't always the ones there from the start. Sometimes it's the ones who dare to come back, to tell the truth, to stand in the light with you. She points to the painting. This is my family, not perfect, but real. My mom danced, I paint, and this man, he's learning to listen. She doesn't call Henry dad, not yet, but her eyes shine with hope as she speaks of him. At the crowd's edge, Henry Langston stands quietly, no suit, just a simple shirt blending in. He stares at the painting, his heart tightening as he sees Sophie, Lila, and himself, painted not with anger, but with acceptance. He recalls Sophie's letter, fight for her. Lila's given him a chance to do that, not with money or fame, but with presence. He claps, slow but heartfelt, and when Lila spots him from the stage, she gives a small nod, not a smile, but a sign he's welcome. Clara Bell, her silver hair gleaming, stands near Lila, her eyes shining with pride. You did it, Lila, she whispers as Lila steps off the stage. Lila hugs her, feeling her mom there, dancing in the light of her paintings. The crowd starts drawing small stars on the walls, a spontaneous tribute to Lila's story, and how our StarOnTheWrist trends again online. Lila looks around, seeing strangers become part of her story, and realizes family isn't just Sophie or Henry, it's New Orleans, the people who choose to remember and share. As the night winds down, Lila stands before her painting, touching her mom's locket. She feels Sophie here, not as a memory, but as a guiding light. Henry approaches, stopping a few feet away, and says, his voice low, "You made Sophie proud, Lila." Lila looks at him, and for the first time, she smiles. "We're trying, aren't we?" she asks. Henry nods, and under the French Quarter's lights, they stand together, not as father and daughter, but as 2 people rewriting a story left unfinished. Moonlight shimmers across the still waters of Bayou St. John, a quiet New Orleans canal where crickets blend with a distant saxophone from the French Quarter. Lila Carter and Henry Langston walk slowly along the path by the water, streetlights casting soft shadows, like they're sketching a story once left undone. Just days after Lila's street art exhibition, where she redefined family through paintings of her mom, Sophie Davis, and Henry, they find peace in this simple moment. Lila, her mom's silver locket glinting in the moonlight, carries her sketchbook, her flat sandals brushing the grass. Henry, no longer in his power suit, wears a plain shirt, his eyes reflective but lighter than they've been in 24 years. Lila pauses under an ancient oak, opening her sketchbook and starting to draw. By moonlight, she sketches 3 stars, one for Sophie, one for Lila, one for Henry, linked by soft, curving lines like a jazz dance. Mom used to say moonlight's where stories get retold, Lila says, her voice gentle but sure. I'm drawing these stars to remember we found each other, even if it was late. Henry looks at the sketch, his hand brushing the star mark on his left wrist. You've got your mom's heart, Lila, he says, his voice thick with emotion, and a courage I never had. Thank you for giving me a chance to be here. Lila looks up, her brown eyes catching the moonlight. Family's not just the ones there from the start, she says, her voice measured. Sometimes it's the ones who choose to come back, even when it's hard. You came back, and that's enough to start. Henry nods, a rare smile breaking through. I won't promise to get it all right, but I promise to try, Lila, every day. Lila closes her sketchbook, meeting his gaze. Meet me here next Mardi Gras, under this oak, she says, to remember Mom and to see how far we've come. Henry nods, his voice catching. I'll be here, rain or shine. They walk on, the waters shimmer a soundtrack to their new beginning. Lila thinks of Sophie, of nights her mom told stories under the moon, and feels her smiling somewhere. Henry thinks of the years he lived in silence, and for the first time, he's not alone. Under New Orleans moonlight, they're not father and daughter in the usual way, but two people who chose each other, chose truth, chose healing. Lila's voice rises, like a message to anyone listening. If you're hearing this story, think about someone you want to reconnect with. Don't let silence steal your chance. Speak up today, before it's too late, and hit like if you believe in second chances, then comment about who you want to find. Who knows, they might be closer than you think. She glances at Henry, and he nods, as if agreeing with her call. Life lesson. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it opens the door to the future. Silence can hide pain, but only truth can heal. Be brave enough to speak, to listen, to walk forward, even if it's just under moonlight. Life, like New Orleans, is always ready for a new dance, if you dare to start. They pause by the canal, moonlight hitting the 3 stars in Lila's sketchbook, a promise that their story, Sophie's, Lila's, Henry's, will never be forgotten.